In the Soviet era, India has been learning from the Soviet Union about its economic development experience, and at the same time has obtained a large amount of Soviet military technology and weapons. After the Sino-Indian conflict broke out, the Soviet Union actually stood on the side of India. China was concerned about the strong military pressure from the Soviet Union, so it made certain concessions in the Sino-Indian War in 1962 and did not completely defeat India. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the Russian economy fell into crisis and exported weapons and equipment to China, India, and other countries for foreign exchange. The weapons exported by Russia to India have better performance than China. For example, Russia customized the Su-30 MKI fighter for India, equipped with a vector thrust engine, and its maneuverability is better than the Su-30 MKK purchased by China. Russia even rented nuclear submarines to India, which is a treatment that China cannot enjoy at all. Russia often receives Indian leaders at top standards on major diplomatic occasions to raise India's international status. It can be said that in addition to taking more dollars from India, Russia's other aspects are completely unilateral contributions to India. However, when Russia was stuck in the quagmire of the Ukrainian war, it was China that put aside its historical grievances and supported Russia in terms of economy, technology, diplomacy, and other aspects under huge international pressure. The United States and Western countries have become angry and threatened to kick China out of the international payment system SWIFT because they have been unable to defeat Russia, which has China's help. It can be said that if China itself is not strong enough and has sufficient countermeasures, Western countries really dare to do so, which will have a catastrophic impact on China. And China's contribution to Russia is only to prevent China's strategic risks after the collapse of Russia. These are all expected consequences, and China has paid a real price for this. Yes, Russia not only occupied a large area of Chinese territory, massacred Chinese in the occupied areas, and split Outer Mongolia from China, but also planned to carry out a surgical nuclear strike on China after the escalation of the Sino-Soviet conflict and wipe China off the map. But the Chinese can see clearly the current world situation, that is, Western countries are trying to defeat China and Russia and maintain a unipolar world led by the United States. In the face of major national interests, historical grievances can be put aside. There is no justice about the war between Russia and Ukraine, but the Russians are indeed using the lives of young people to attract the firepower of Western countries, which can be regarded as a huge contribution to China. Otherwise, if the United States and its allies go all out to deal with China, it will be difficult for China to survive. So what did the Indians do at this time? As Russia was sanctioned by the West, its energy exports encountered major difficulties. India bought oil from Russia at a low price and resold it at a high price in the international market, making a lot of money. When Russia was in urgent need of foreign exchange reserves, the Indians forced Russia to use rupees for transactions. And their rupees could not be spent at all in the international market, so Russia suffered a dumb loss. And the Indians also began to find faults in weapons procurement, thinking that Russian equipment was not as good as Western countries. So they turned to purchasing French fighters instead of Russian fighters. Indians did not think at all that Russian equipment had played a very good role when it served in China, Vietnam, and other countries, but why it was not suitable for India. It can be said that the Modi government is a very short-sighted government. It can only see the immediate interests and cannot consider the country's foreign policy from a strategic perspective. In order to make more money from oil and gas, it actually stabbed Russia, its most important friend, in the back when it was at its weakest. Now that Trump has returned to the White House, he is likely to make peace with Russia and concentrate on dealing with China. It is actually difficult to predict to what extent the relationship between China and Russia can be maintained. But what is certain is that the Russians have unpaid bills from the Indians in their books. India's weapons systems are highly dependent on Russia, including key projects such as fighter jets, tanks, and submarines. The next time India and China get into a serious conflict, it will be difficult to get Russia to stand on its side. The United States and Western countries have never regarded India as a friend and are currently shorting India and attacking Indian tycoons such as Adani. India really has no reliable friends in the international community.